So let's get into it. So what happens when a purely logical mind collides head-on with an illogical nightmare? This question really frames our whole analysis today. We're looking at a terrifying clash between evidence-based reality and the supernatural. Think about it. When someone whose entire worldview is built on tangible proof and the scientific method is suddenly thrown into a scenario where the laws of physics just stop working, how do they react? Can a logical mind even survive a nightmare like that intact? Well, let's find out. Let's start with Section 1, The Legend of Room 333. Now, Room 333 inside London's incredibly luxurious antique Langham Hotel is the epicenter of our investigation. The Langham isn't just your run-of-the-mill building, right? It's this famous, opulent piece of London architecture, complete with soft-carpeted floors and these massive, imposing paintings near the entrance. But deep within those historic walls sits Room 333, a space with a profoundly heavy, dark reputation. So what's the story? Well, it centers around the honeymoon murders. Legend has it that years ago, a doctor and his wife checked into Room 333 to celebrate their honeymoon. But instead of a celebration, it ended in a brutal murder-suicide. The story goes that the doctor murdered his wife and then took his own life, and his restless spirit has wandered that room ever since. It's essentially a textbook haunted hotel legend, and that makes it the absolute perfect target for skeptics. Which brings us to Section 2, The Logical Investigator. Enter Annie. She's a 25-year-old British journalist who basically built her entire career on exposing fake hauntings using hard facts. But here she was, walking right into the Langham, a place completely steeped in decades of deadly, unexplainable myths. Annie's game plan was super straightforward. Spend one night, record absolutely everything, debunk the myth, and move on to her next assignment. Easy, right? Well, the creepy atmosphere started building pretty much immediately. When Annie asked for room 333 at the front desk, the smiling receptionist's face just went totally blank. Her hands literally froze before she offered this super nervous apology. And instead of handing over a modern keycard, she gave Annie a heavy, antique metal key. As Annie made her way up to the third floor, all that bustling hotel noise just vanished. The corridor was dead empty, the paintings looked faded, and the dim yellow lights were casting these deep, really unnatural shadows everywhere. Now, sensory details like this are absolutely crucial. Imagine grabbing a heavy brass door handle and realizing it is shockingly freezing cold. That's the immediate physical dread Annie felt before even stepping inside. It was this undeniable sign that the space was totally unwelcoming. And as that heavy wooden door creaked open, she was met with pitch darkness. She actually had to use her phone's flashlight just to hunt down the light switch in this old, Victorian-styled room. Despite the creepy vibe, Annie's logical approach kicked right in. The room had this grand Victorian decor, a king-sized bed, and notably a full-length mirror facing it. Unbothered, she got straight to work. Step 1, mount the tripod. Step 2, set up the camera. Step 3, connect the microphone. She was meticulously building an electronic safety net, basically making sure that whatever did or didn't happen would be caught by cold, unbiased machinery. Moving on to Section 3, the paranormal escalation. This is where things start to go off the rails, and it starts really subtly. First, right after she turned on the lights, there was a sudden, loud thud. Her suitcase, which she had safely left outside the door, had somehow tipped over all on its own. Kind of weird, right? But she shakes it off, orders a sandwich, lights a small fire in the fireplace to fight off the November chill, and just works on her laptop until she drifts off. But then, she's jolted awake by a knock at the door. Looking through the peephole, she sees a butler holding a tray with a large silver cover. When she opens the door, the phantom butler simply says, "Your room service, madam." Now, this is one of the most chilling moments in the whole account, because Annie was totally confused. Her sandwich had already arrived hours ago. She tried to correct him, but the man calmly insisted the order was for her. So the butler lifts the silver lid, and Annie is met with the impossible. Sitting right there on the platter is her own severed head. I mean, imagine the sheer psychological shock of that. She lets out this massive scream, blinks, and instantly, the butler, the tray, the horrific severed head, they all just vanish into thin air. The corridor is completely empty and silent again. Pure panic sets in. She slams the door and immediately runs to her tech for some kind of logical grounding. But here's the million-dollar question we have to ask alongside Annie. How did her impeccably set-up camera card completely corrupt? Her logic totally shatters here. She checks her camera and the SD card is ruined. Okay, what about the audio? She checks the recorder, there's no knock, there's no voice saying room service. The only things on the tape are the sound of the door opening, a brief silence, the door slamming shut, and Annie's own terrified screams. Her objective safety net completely failed her. Which leads us straight into Section 4, the brutal climax. At exactly 1 a.m., things get physical. Even though that fire she lit earlier was still actively roaring in the hearth, the temperature in the room suddenly plummeted to this unbearable, unnatural freezing point. Desperate for a moment of clarity, Annie retreats to the bathroom just to splash some cold water on her face and try to ground herself. But when she looks up into the bathroom mirror, there is a horrifying figure standing right behind her. It's a man with a rotting face and unusually long nails, wearing torn, decaying clothes straight out of the Victorian era. It was the absolute visual confirmation of the myth she was there to debunk. It was the murderous doctor. He reaches his hands out, looking like he's going to strangle her. But when she whips around in a panic, the bathroom is completely empty. The anomalies are hitting her in rapid succession now. Totally terrified, she decides she's out of there. She packs her bags, grabs the door handle, but it won't budge. It feels like it's locked from the outside. Suddenly, the room's lights start flickering wildly like a strobe light. And in those flashes, the horrifying figure is back. But this time, his body is stark white. His eyes are glowing yellow. And he is slowly, steadily walking right towards her. She is completely trapped. Finally, we reach Section 5, the horrifying aftermath. Alerted by her absolutely blood-curdling screams, 2 or 3 hotel workers finally manage to force their way into the room, and the scene they find literally defies all rational explanation. That full-length mirror facing the bed is completely shattered. There's blood on the glass, and the room is just a scene of total chaos and gore. And this right here is where the true terror of paranormal possession hits. Because Annie's reality, her sensory experience told her that this horrifying ghost doctor had grabbed her by the head and was brutally slamming it into the mirror. But the staff's subjective reality, when they burst in, there was absolutely no ghost. Annie was completely alone, screaming wildly and violently smashing her own head into the glass. The hotel staff literally had to tackle her and hold her down to stop her from killing herself before she passed out. But the most disturbing twist of this whole explainer comes later. When Annie finally recounted the ghost forcing her head into the glass, a staff member revealed a chilling truth. Decades ago, that is the exact brutal manner in which the doctor had murdered his wife in that very room. History was repeating itself. The entity didn't just attack Annie, it possessed her mind to recreate its own grim, deadly past. Annie eventually wakes up in the hotel's medical room. Physically, she survives the ordeal, though she is battered and deeply injured. But the source makes it incredibly clear. While her physical wounds would eventually heal, the psychological destruction was permanent. This highly logical journalist, who built her life on exposing fakes, was left fundamentally broken by the realization that sometimes the nightmares are absolutely real. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Annie went in relying completely on cameras and recorders to dictate what was real. But when the machinery mysteriously fails and your own mind and body are hijacked against your will, how do you actually prove what is real? It really challenges our total reliance on logic in the face of the unknown. I hope you found this explainer as fascinating and terrifying as I did. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.